So there are different types of adjective. At this stage, I do not want you to remember every adjective, every type, but you should have an idea what kind of adjectives I am talking about and how it works in Hindi Urdu morphology. So if you look at this, the first one is attributed towards some. So the first one is Naya Mansuba, new project, comes before noun. Predicative, वह खुश है, comes after the verb to be. Declinable, अच्छा, अच्छी, अच्छे, good, changes the form depending upon the noun they modify. Indeclinable, like खूबसूरत, लाल, or a noun they modify. We also use comparative that we'll be learning in a moment. Zyada for comparative, like more than. In English we always use better than, good, better, best. So better is comparative here. So in Hindi Urdu we use zyada. Superlative, like best, in Hindi Urdu we use sabse. And adjective as a noun we use bada. And adjective as adverb we use gehri saans, deep breath, describe verb or noun. Then also we have numeral adjectives like teen kitabein, quantify the noun by using the number. So this is basically how it works in adjectives in its various types. So this is basically a simple chart where you can have these types by knowing attributive, predicative, declinable, indeclinable, comparative, superlative, adjective as noun, adjective as adverb, and numeral adjectives by using the number. Unlike English, where they use good, better, best, like ER for comparative, EST for superlative, Urdu Hindi use separate words for comparative and superlative. If you look at the Urdu word, it is bara, Hindi is also bara, English is big. For comparative, we use jada bara for bigger, and for superlative, we use sabse bara, the biggest. So these are the terms bara, jada bara, and sabse bara for superlative degree we use in for adjective. There are two systems to look at the adjectives. First one is morphological system. So this is used only by adjectives borrowed from Sanskrit and to a smaller extent from Persian and Arabic. These adjectives form comparative and superlative degree by adding special suffixes that we have seen just now. Then there is another one that called periphrastic system. So what this system is, this is the everyday method used for almost all adjectives in a spoken Hindi Urdu. Here we use se for than and sabse for most and the linking verb. Linking verb is used at the end. So in the examples, you will understand it clearly. We will look at both, but let us first understand the morphological system. If you look at this, Sanskrit origin, and I am talking about this comparative and superlative, these adjectives take a suffix tar to form a comparative. So tar is basically used as here, let me write tar in Hindi or tar in Urdu, and then tam to form superlative. If you look at these examples, sundar, sundartar, or sundartam. For comparative is sundartar, for superlative is sundartam, though it is not used very commonly sundartar, but it is the pattern that we use in Hindi. For example, adhik, adhiktar, and adhiktam, very commonly used one for making the basic form adhik, then comparative form is adhiktar, and then superlative is adhiktam. In the same way, we have for Perso-Arabic. In Persian origin adjectives, it uses tar and tareen. So in Hindi we use same tar, and but in for superlative we use tareen. Now look at this, the word bad for comparative bad tar, and for superlative bad tareen. Another one is kam tar, and kam tareen. So this is how this comparative and superlative degree form in Urdu by following the Persian way of making comparative or superlative. In Hindi, we follow the Sanskrit way of making comparative and superlative. For example, adhik, adhiktam, adhiktar, and adhiktam. So for Perso-Arabic, bad, badtar, or bad tareen. Now, this is a normal structure we used in Hindi, Urdu for comparative. So basic structure is, if you look at this, compared entity, then a standard of comparison, then we use say, in Hindi we use say, in Urdu we like this, then adjective, then linking verb. So first we name the thing or person we are describing. Then we mention what we compare it with. This is the sequence I am talking about. Then the postposition say marks then. So this say is the postposition. Then adjective follows. And finally the correct form of the verb to be, that is called linking verb. So if you look at this example, Syama Rima se lambi hai. So Syama Rima se lambi hai. Syama is taller than Rima. So Syama Rima se lambi hai. So Syama is the entity being compared with here. Rima is the standard of comparison, and se is introducing the comparison form, and lambi is the adjective form, and hai is the linking verb or auxiliary verb. So this is all in the comparative, in periphrastic and phrastic, very commonly used in Hindi Urdu. If you look at this example, यह मकान तुम्हारे मकान से छोटा है. So this house is smaller than your house. I will look at this sentence. The item being compared appears first, like यह मकान. The thing it is compared against follows with se, like makan se, and the verb appears at the end, like hai, linking verb we call it. To create a superlative, Hindi Urdu uses the idea of among all. All means sab, sabse. The structure is compared entity. If you look at this here, then sub, then say, then adjective, then linking verb. So this is the basic structure for periphrastic superlatives. So when sub is omitted, sometimes Hindi Urdu uses may to introduce the group within which comparison happens. Here sub say still marks superlative, but the group is implied by the phrase with may. So if you look at this sentence, अपनी क्लास में नीला सबसे लंबी है. So look at अपनी क्लास में नीला सबसे लंबी and the verb है. नीला is being compared here. अपनी क्लास में identifies the group, so in the whole class, and then सबसे signal the superlative degree. लंबी is the referring to the adjective, and the linking verb है, or complete the sentence by using this. So अपनी क्लास में नीला सबसे लंबी है. So this is how we make superlatives by addressing the group of the people. Sometimes the speaker wants to clearly name the group, such as all girls. Instead of saying class, we all girls, all houses. In such sentences, sub acts almost like an adjective modifying the noun. For example, हम सब में राधा का मकान सबसे बड़ा है. So among all of us, Radha's house is largest. In this case, if you look at this, हम सब में, here it is, हम सब में, among all of us is the comparison group. सबसे बड़ा expresses the biggest. If the speaker mentions both the group and the comparison explicitly, sub attaches to the noun as a modifier instead of functioning independently. For example, अपनी क्लास में नीला सब लड़कियों से लंबी है. So not only referring to the class, but सब लड़कियों is important here. So सब लड़कियों means all the girls. The comparison is done using only say, and it is still a superlative, meaning she is tallest among all girls. यानी सब लड़कियों से लंबी है. So this shows that sub can either stand alone or modify the noun depending on the structure. So this is how we make superlative. Now, going further, if you look at Hindi Urdu adjectives can be divided into subtypes using several criteria. For example, where they appear in the sentence, like in syntactic position, some adjectives can stand before a noun which is attributive toward that. Some can appear after the verb which is predicative, and others may occur in both positions. Their internal structures means how they are formed or derived. We can look at this. Their meaning, certain adjectives have meaning that limit where they can appear. But for this section, we mainly focus on syntactic behavior here, because for adjective to understand the basic notion, we already have gone through the chart, and that chart is sufficient to understand the adjective. But since adjective has several uses, we are going to look at all of those. So it says attributive adjectives or pre-modifiers. These adjectives appear before the noun they qualify. They cannot normally appear after the verb to be, like hai, ha, etc. That examples includes adjective like bhutpurv, kinship adjectives such as chachera or mausera, cousins, used in this context. These adjectives directly attach to the noun and are not used in predicative constructions. So only with noun they can be used, not in predicatively. If you look at the example, ये सज्जन देश के भूतपूर्व मंत्री हैं. This gentleman is the former minister of the country. So purv, if you look at this, comes before the noun mantri. So pradhan mantri bhutpurv hai is not possible. In this, it is incorrect predicative use of an attributive adjective as purv cannot appear after the verb. So it is only used with the noun. ये सज्जन देश के भूतपूर्व मंत्री है is fine, but we cannot say प्रधानमंत्री भूतपूर्व हैं. If you look at another example, ये मेरी kinship terms, like referring to relationship term, ये मेरी मौसेरी बहनें हैं. In Urdu we call it ये मेरी खालाजाद बहनें हैं. But मौसेरी बहनें is also used in both ways. So these are my cousins, mother, sisters, daughters. So Mauseri is referring to maternal noun's daughter is used before the noun is correct. Before the noun is used. Mauseri bahne. So before bahne it is correct. ये बहनें मौसेरी हैं It is not commonly used one. Sometimes people use, but it is not correct use. So here again, incorrect predicative use because kinship adjectives cannot stand after the verb. These adjectives must appear before the noun they describe. So before the noun means before the bahan, mausili can be used, but not before the verb. They cannot stand alone after the verb like hai, tha, or the. So these are the conditions for use in kinship terms. Some adjectives naturally appear only after the location phrase or postpositional phrase. For example, adjective meaning ready often needs an additional phrase showing purpose, for what purpose it is used. If you look at this sentence, दूध गर्म करने के लिए तैयार है. The milk is ready for heating. So here tayyar is allowed because if you look at the sentence one more, दूध गर्म करने के लिए तैयार है. So if you look at this word tayyar here, allowed because it follow a purpose phrase like garam karne ke liye. Why this दूध is ready? To make it warm, make it hot. So, but however, if you say दूध तैयार है, when no context is given, there is no context why दूध is ready. If context is not given, this normally odd in Hindi Urdu because तैयार usually expect a purpose for to be used. So adjective tayyar does not function freely like most adjectives. So in Hindi Urdu, when tayyar is used with meaning prepared for some task, it typically needs to be accompanied by an infinitive phrase describing the purpose like to work, to dance, नाच करने के लिए तैयार है, काम करने के लिए तैयार है, a postpositional phrase expressing intention, or without such a phrase, tayyar cannot simply stand before a noun. So these are the contexts where tayyar as an adjective can be used. If you look at the examples, ladke tayyar hain, the boys are ready. Tayyar appears, so the boys are ready. So tayyar here appears after the noun. This correct predicative use. However, if you look at this sentence, तैयार लड़कों को भेज दो, send the ready boys, this sentence sounds incorrect unless we specify what they are ready for. So it is called incorrect attributive use of the तैयार. So when we say तैयार, लड़के तैयार हैं, it is fine because it is correct and used for to specify for what they are ready. So there is a context, but in this use, तैयार लड़कों को भेज दो does not make much sense here, and this is called incorrect attributive use of the तैयार. Now, if you see how the adjective becomes acceptable when we add a purpose phrase. Purpose means for some reason, if you use that, काम करने के लिए तैयार लड़के आगे बढ़ें. So if you look at this sentence, काम करने के लिए तैयार लड़के आगे बढ़ें. So let the boys who are prepared to work move forward. So this is here forward. Look at the example. नाच के लिए तैयार लड़कियों को आगे भेजो. So नाच के लिए तैयार लड़कियों को आगे भेजो. Send forward the girls who are ready to dance. Here you can see that tayyar must be paired with something that describes the task or activity. So tayyar for what? So tayyar to work or tayyar to dance. So there should be something, some task or activity to be used here. Correct use. This pairing makes the adjective function properly as an attributive. It is attributed to some action to perform some activity. Most adjectives can be both pre-modifier and post-modifier. Modifier and post-modifier, unlike tayyar, most Hindi adjectives appear before the noun, which is attributive, as you know, we have seen that, and after the verb as complement, which is predicative. Example of such flexible adjectives include अच्छा, लंबा, महंगा. For example, अच्छा घर. If you look at this example, अच्छा घर here, अच्छा घर, घर अच्छा है और घर अच्छा है. Both are correct. Predicate position on pre-nominal position. Both use are here correct. So you can see the context of its use. Now let us classify adjectives based on their internal structure, that is how they are formed. Classification of adjectives by composition lexical item. For example, lal, naya, if you look at lal, naya, अच्छा, बुरा, this is the spelling is like this, बुरा, then gahra, and then lamba. Then we call also derived adjectives. These adjectives from khel, like playful khel, laraki, from larai, chamkila, from chamak, sunehra, from sona, bagni, from bagan, eggplant. So this is how derived, these are called derived adjective from खिलाड़ी from खेल, लड़ाकी from लड़ाई, चमकीला from चमक, सुनहरा from सोना, बैंगनी from बैगन. Here the adjectives is created by adding a suffix a, e and la. चमकीला, a in सुनहरा, e in खिलाड़ी. So these are all called as derived adjectives. Complex adjectives. Hindi Urdu has a rich system of forming adjectives from verbs, especially from present participles and past participles. So infinitive plus wala is very common in Hindi Urdu. So if you look at this structure, this wala, and by using or ne wala. So these participle adjectives express either action performed by the noun or states resulting from action. Examples rewritten but representing the same categories. If you look at this, agent using wala, agent like bandar wala, one who handled a pet monkey, nukkar wala, the one at the corner. Activity related adjective infinitive plus वाला, अखबार बेचने वाला, newspaper seller, one who sells the newspaper, घास काटने वाला, the grass cutter, one who cuts the grass. So these are very commonly used adjective in Hindi Urdu. Past participle adjectives, participial adjective, लेटा हुआ, सोया हुआ, भागता हुआ, उगता हुआ. So लेटा हुआ, lying, सोया हुआ, asleep, भागता हुआ, while running, उगता हुआ, while rising. These adjectives come directly from verb forms and describe ongoing or completed action. Now, Hindi Urdu makes extensive use of participles, like verb-based forms, to create adjectives. English has a limited set of participial adjectives like running water, broken toy, etc., but Hindi Urdu uses them far more productively. There are several types. Wala type adjectives with agentive or activity based. The suffix wala, wali or wale can attach to nouns to describe a person associated with something, with infinitive to describe someone who performs an action, like बेचने वाला, देखने वाला, खाने वाला. With noun it can be अखबार वाला, फल वाला, सब्जी वाला, or any वाला to describe a person associated with something. Bandar wala, a person who owns, handles a performing monkey. Mor wala, the one at the corner. Akhbar, bechne wala, the newspaper seller. Ghas kaatne wala, one who cuts the grass or grass cutter. In the first two examples, wala attached to a noun. In the next two examples, wala in, so this bandar wala, mor wala attached to the noun, bechne wala and kaatne wala at the infinitive. These work like adjectives and agree with the noun in gender and number. Hindi Urdu uses past participles and present participles to form adjectives. If you look at the past participle, leta hua, lying down, सोया हुआ, asleep, सोकर आया हुआ, having slept, किया हुआ, or performed, done something. Past participles agree with the noun and can be used before a noun as attributive or after a verb as predicative. Present participle as imperfective. भागता हुआ, running, उगता हुआ, rising. These usually function before nouns. Hindi Urdu forms, these participles form imperfect form of the verb. For example, bhagna. If you look at this word, bhagna, ugna, adding ta, te and ti followed by hua for perfect aspect, giving both current and completed action meanings. Sometimes adjectives take additional words in front of them to give extra emphasis or detail. एक बहुत बड़ा पेड़, a very large tree. So बहुत modifies बड़ा, making the adjective complex. So this is how complex adjectives used as some modifier. Hindi Urdu also forms adjectives from pronouns, especially those indicating proximity, distance, relation, correlations, and interrogation. These adjectives describe the type or quantify for something. So if you look at this, this is something new that you can remember. Aisa, of this kind. Vaisa, proximity, distributive. Jaisa, the kind that or which. Taisa or Vaisa, and interrogative kaisa. In a similar quantity form, that itna, this much, utna, that much, jitna, as much, utna, that amount referring to, and then kitna, interrogative, like how much. So these are some of the commonly used pronominal adjectives, we can say. Then semantic properties. Another important basic of classification, their meaning and behavior. Where adjectives can appear in a sentence, whether they can take intensifiers and whether they can participate in comparative or superlative constructions. Based on meaning, Hindi Urdu adjectives can be grouped into several semantic subclasses such as gradable versus non-gradable, inherent versus non-inherent, static versus dynamic. So different dialect and registers may slightly vary in how these categories behave. Hindi Urdu also includes semantic categories like numerals and quantifiers, color words, adjectives of shape, size, measure, quality, and adjectives of origin or nationality. Gradable versus non-gradable adjectives. These adjectives can be intensified using words like bahut, zyada, kafi. So if you look at this, zyada and kafi, used in comparative constructions with se, used in superlative construction with subse. Because they can vary in degree, they are all gradable. If you look at this sentence, Vineet बहुत अच्छा लड़का है. So here acha can be intensified bahut, so it is gradable. To vast extent he is acha, so can be graded. So यह शहर की सबसे चौड़ी सड़क है. This is the widest road in the city. So here चौड़ी participates in a superlative structure which confirms it is gradable. So सबसे चौड़ी, like the most wide road in the city. शहबा ज्यादा होशियार है, उसे स्कॉलरशिप मिलनी चाहिए. So Shahba is more intelligent, she deserves the scholarship. The adjective होशियार is gradable because it can take ज़्यादा and it can be used in comparison. So ज़्यादा होशियार, होशियार can be कम होशियार, होशियार can be ज़्यादा होशियार, होशियार can be सबसे होशियार. So we call it gradable. ये gradable है. Then वह और थका हुआ लग रहा है. So if you look at this sentence, he appears more tired. Here participial adjective थका हुआ is allowed to take more, so it behaves like a gradable adjectives. So ज़्यादा थका हुआ, कम थका हुआ, सबसे ज़्यादा थका हुआ. So these are all gradable. So here now if you look at this, not all adjectives can take बहुत, ज़्यादा और सबसे. Some adjectives describe absolute states and cannot vary by degree. Some examples of non-gradable adjectives include जीवित, जिंदा, alive, मृत like dead. Most quantifiers like all and such, many participial forms, you cannot naturally say बहुत जिंदा. These meanings simply do not allow degrees. When there is no degree of gradable things, we cannot say बहुत जिंदा. So inherent versus non-inherent. After understanding gradability, we next look at inherent and non-inherent adjectives. These distinctions help explain why some adjectives relate to nouns' essential nature while others describe it. Inherent use: when the adjective expresses a real property of the noun, temporary or contextual properties. For example, पुरानी किताबें बक्सों में बंद है. Look at this example. पुरानी किताबें बक्सों में बंद है. Here, पुरानी describes a real attribute of the noun किताबें. The books themselves are old in age. Select referring to पुरानी किताबें. किताबें पुरानी हैं. The books are old. Again, old is a property of the books themselves. These are inherent uses because the adjectives tells us something true about the noun's nature or condition. Condition of the kitab, how it is new or old, नया है या पुरानी है. So referring to the kitab. Now consider old friends here. पुराने दोस्तों से मिलकर अच्छा लगा. It felt good to meet old friends. In everyday Hindi Urdu, पुराने दोस्तों means friends from long ago. दोस्त पुराने हैं. Intended meaning here, the friends are old. This is ungrammatical in Hindi Urdu unless old refers to age, which would require a different adjective, बूढ़ा. Why? Because old here describes the friendship, not the people. This is why purana applied to those in non-inherent. Another way to classify adjective is by asking whether they describe a stable state, stative, or a changeable action-related state, dynamic. A stative adjective describes conditions that don't naturally take progressive or imperatives. For example, Bahadur, brave, describe a character trait, not an ongoing action. So this Bahadur important here. लड़का बहादुर हो रहा है. The boy is being brave. So this is intended meaning. Hindi Urdu does not allow bravery to appear as a progressive action. So Bahadur ho, this is unacceptable because bravery is not an action you can command directly. So how do we express change of a state? Hindi Urdu uses the verb banna. Banna, it is should be written at banna, to become with native, so someone becomes something. Correct expression is adjectives. तो वह बहादुर बन गया, वो बहादुर बन गया, he became brave. बहादुर बनो, become brave. Then here brave is understood as a result of the change, so banna is appropriate. Since banna, the correct form for banna is like this. Dynamic adjectives describe properties that can develop, change or progress over time. Because they have an inherent sense of change or growth, they can occur with the progressive aspect of hona, the imperative form of hona. For example, लड़की लंबी हो रही है, the girl is growing taller. So here lambi describes a physical change that can happen gradually. So lambi hona slowly. बड़े हो फिर स्कूल जाना. Grow up, intention is here to say become bigger, then you can go to a school. This would show that becoming big or older is a change, so the imperative is accepted or acceptable. Then why dynamic adjectives allow progressive? So dynamic qualities such as tallness as it develops, slowly becoming taller, strength, maturity, size can be increased over time, which allows progressive, meaning that stative qualities such as brave, honest, intelligent are inherent traits, not action or progress, so they block the progressive form of hona. So with this, I would like to stop here because adjectives we have gone through this kind of structure. Now only thing that you need to remember here for the adjective is the chart I have shown you here. This is, if you know this part of the adjective, you will easily survive and get good grade in the examination. So basic adjectives to understand is marked adjectives and unmarked adjective. Marked adjective is a, like meetha, acha, sasta. Unmarked, any ending on consonant or vowel or other than a comes under this category. So a modify the masculine singular noun, a modify the masculine plural noun, e modify both feminine singular and plural noun. And the examples for this: अच्छा संतरा, अच्छे संतरे, अच्छी बेटी, अच्छी बेटियां. And the same way we have unmarked like सुंदर कमरा, सुंदर कमरे, सुंदर लड़की, सुंदर लड़कियां, because unmarked adjective does not change at all in all its combinations. So this is all about the adjective. I hope you by now have gotten the clear idea about adjective and its uses in different contexts. So thank you very much, and I hope you have enjoyed this class. We'll meet you in the next class. Thank you very much.